Hey guys, Adam Trigger here. It's Saturday morning. Time for On the Clock. I've been getting messages all week. Where's On the Clock been? Are you still going to do On the Clock for baseball season? I wasn't entirely sure, but I do think there's enough interest where we'll keep it going. But the other place I've been is I've just been like deathly ill all week. I think I was as sick as I've been since like getting COVID in like 2021 or 2020, whenever everyone got COVID is when I had it. And I have been out of commission for a lot of the week as far as like doing video stuff. So starting to feel a little bit better, as you can tell. Still getting over this flu or whatever I've had. But yeah, we'll bring On the Clock back. And like I said, I think what I'm gonna do during baseball season is focus on like 40-man roster stuff. Give you some insight into guys getting called up, going back down to AAA. Just some stuff on the fringes that I think is going to help you handicap games a little bit better if you're not watching that stuff. And then, of course, we'll sprinkle in AAA, KBO, the occasional MLB pick, whatever I've got, early in the day when I'm doing this show. So college basketball, we say goodbye to it over the next couple of days. Good slate today. I was kind of the Crown has been like super disappointing. I had two plays the first day, split those, and then I kind of lost interest. Some of the teams that I was more interested in got knocked out. The books stopped offering lines, at least the legal spots, and it's just it felt like it was kind of a free for all. But there is two games that are, I think now that we've got a little bit of an in tournament sample, makes them a little bit easier to assess. So I may play there. I haven't decided. I don't know if I'll get to the window in one of the final four games, but I will talk about one of them to get things started. And you know what? Like, not my best basketball season, but we're 7-2 in college hoop to finish it off. And who knows? Maybe we'll have a play at some point. We've got 3 Crown games and 3 NCAA tournament games left this season, so maybe we'll find something. I'm going to put 2 minutes 30 seconds on the clock. And let's talk some Final Four. Let's talk Houston and Duke. And listen, like, you're at the point in the season, you've got 4 1 seeds, right? Like, theoretically, I think there's a way to make a case for any team to not only win their respective game today, but also win the entire thing. Like, I think you could go around the horn and say, there's ways that Auburn could win the whole thing. There's ways that Florida could win it. There's ways that Houston can get it done, and then obviously Duke, which I think is sort of the most obvious choice and the one that makes the most sense. So I look at this Houston-Duke matchup. There's no line value in taking Duke, but I do think Duke probably wins this game. There's far more paths to victory here for Duke than Houston, in my opinion. I think Houston potentially struggles against Duke's size. Houston, I feel like they have to get something out of the pick and roll to generate offense, and Duke is very, very good at defending that. So what I think this comes down to here for Houston is having to hit tough shot after tough shot. I don't think Houston can keep pace with Duke if they are not making tough jumper after tough jumper, probably mid-range jumpers, kind of what Alabama couldn't do against Duke and why that game got so out of hand. So now, to Houston's credit, they're a little bit better at that than Alabama is. And I do think Houston has other ways to hang around. I think they're a little bit tougher than Alabama. Of course, their defense is better. They're going to hit the offensive glass and just be super physical. Maybe that's how Houston sort of stays in this game. But I also think that they're going to have a much tougher time defending Duke than they did their last couple opponents. Something that Houston has been good at this year is taking away pick and roll from the opponent, but they will give up like catch and shoot open type looks in that regard. Now, I think if you go back to the Tennessee game and you rewatch the Tennessee game, you'll realize Tennessee actually wasn't generating bad looks in that game. They just weren't making them. Especially as the game went along. I felt like Tennessee was getting decent looks. They just couldn't hit them. That's not going to – Duke's far more efficient in that regard than Tennessee. Forgot how quick that clock comes up when we're doing 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And that was in fact the 2-minute, 30-second clock. So, I guess I'll wrap it up by saying this. I think Duke has so many more paths to victory in this game. I think Houston would have to play near perfect in terms of like making mid-range jumpers at a high percentage, winning the rebounding battle. If that doesn't happen, Duke's going to win. They're far superior in my opinion. They have superior size. They have more ways to win, and they're so efficient on offense that if Houston's giving up something somewhere, Duke's going to find a way to exploit it and going to find a way to score. So you can't count Houston out by any means, but there's just more paths to victory here, in my opinion. For Duke, I think the number is right, but I would lean Duke to win that game. And I think to cut down the nets, it really just feels like UConn from the past couple of years. I feel like when you're watching this tournament, it's to me like if you're just using your eyes, what you see out on the court, Duke has been so dominant. It's very reminiscent of UConn for the past 2 years. Like, just doesn't feel like they're going to be denied to me. And so maybe you just bet it. Maybe you just bet Duke to win it at this point, because obviously that way you don't have to lay the 5.5 or 5 or whatever it goes off in this game. All right, let's go to Major League Baseball. And these are the types of scenarios that I want to kind of talk about on this show. So we're going to talk A's Rockies. This is actually more of an opinion for tomorrow's game. But, I talked about earlier in the week, Nick Kurtz got scratched from the Aviators lineup on Thursday night. I thought for sure that he was going to get the call up. Like, sometimes a late scratch in a minor league game usually means the big league club calls down and says, hey, take this guy out of the lineup. We need him in the next city the next day. Apparently that wasn't the case. I still don't know why he was left out on Thursday. I never saw anything about it, but he was back in the lineup for Vegas last night, went 2 for 5. He's now hitting .462 at AAA this year, 1.423 OPS. I guess I don't get it. Like some of the, I understand there's other things as to why guys are at AAA at the big league level. I mean, this is a kid that was at Wake Forest at this time last year. So I get that. But like he would, in my opinion, I don't know how much more you need to see if you're the A's. I thought he might make the roster out of spring. He's that good. And so, he, in my opinion, the A's still don't have their fully optimal team at the big league level. They still have JT Ginn down at AAA. He should be in that rotation right now, in my opinion. They still have Grant Holman at AAA. He should probably be in the big league bullpen. And Kurtz would probably slot right into that lineup somewhere. But, but again, it is what it is. Like this happens on all teams. Now the Rockies, they have, it's almost like they've seen enough through the first week and said, all right, like we got to do something here. Right now, I think arguably like 2 of their best starters are at Albuquerque, and Carson Palmquist and Chase Dollander. And they finally just said, yep, we've seen enough. Dollander's going to get the call, and he'll make his major league debut on Sunday. So what I thought he might make the club out of spring. He had a really good spring training. Last year in the minors, 12.9 strikeouts per 9. Ks per 9, 12.9. Now, granted, the majority of his season, I think, was at AA. 2.59 ERA. Like, he's got electric stuff. He's going to be a very good big league starter. And so, you look at Sunday's game. So remember, this is for Sunday's game. Joey Estes is going to start for the A's. Was not impressed with him in his first start this year. He was throwing BP to the Cubs. Was not really, I kind of commented on this last year a couple times. Don't feel like he really is like a big league. He's a guy that's probably like a decent organizational depth guy. He had a 5 ERA, spent most of his year at the big league level last year. ERA over 5. I feel like that's what he is. 91, 92 mile an hour fastball. I feel like that's what he is. I thought it should have been Ginn in the rotation over him out of spring. But I get it. They're going to be a little bit more conservative with their younger guys. So this is Sunday's matchup. But as we know, the Rockies have much better splits at home than on the road. So I'll be kind of watching today's matchup. I don't know that I'll come back with the A's. I bet the A's yesterday. They won in extra innings, maybe a little bit fortunate, but got the job done in extras. This is for Sunday's game. I'll look at the Rockies. I'm interested to see how the books price Dollander. He's good. He's very good. The A's are going to not really know much about him. Probably not have much of a book on him because, like I said, most of his season last year was spent in Double-A. The Rockies play Double-A out on the East Coast. It's kind of one sort of weird wrinkle of the minors. All of these teams, like regionally located their minor league teams over the past few years. The Rockies are still the Hartford Yard Goats out here in Hartford, Connecticut for Double-A, and then Albuquerque for Triple-A. So if a guy spends a lot of time at Double-A, chances are some of the West Coast teams haven't really seen much of him, and I think that would hold true for the A's. So that's a Sunday game right there, but I think, excuse me, I think the Rockies on Sunday might be worth a look. Let's finish things off here with some KBO. I have some thoughts. So I haven't bet KBO the past couple days. Hanwha really screwed me earlier in the week after I had a really good start to the KBO season. And then I decided to take a position with Hanwha in their series with Lotte, and they just no-showed on me. So I passed on Friday's card. I ended up passing on Saturday because I just wasn't the game I liked. I had a feeling was going to get rained out, and it did. So now we go to Sunday's games. I do have an opinion here on Sunday. So NC is going to play Kiwoom, and this will actually be it's Sunday for Korea, but it's a day game. So this will actually technically for us here on the East Coast, well, us on the West Coast. On the West Coast, it's late Saturday night. On the East Coast, it's 1 a.m. So I guess we'll call it overnight. But I usually consider that a Saturday game because 1 a.m. is if you're going to stay up and watch it, you're probably not going to wake up at 1 a.m. You're probably going to stay up. And that's what time this game will play. So this is going to be 1 a.m. Eastern or 10 p.m. Pacific Saturday night. NC Dinos, Kiwoom Heroes. And the reason I'm interested in this game is kind of the same reason I've been talking about Kiwoom all year. So Kiwoom's going with 2 import bats this year, which is a strategy that really hasn't been used much. It really hasn't yielded a ton of success for KBO teams. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years since we've seen a team do it. But Kiwoom, I think, managed to grab 2 of like the better hitters in the league at this point. Yasiel Puig, who everyone kind of knows or remembers from MLB, and then Ruben Cardenas, who I think is arguably the best hitter in the league, or at least one of them. He's certainly on the list. He's certainly like one of the top 5 sluggers in this league at this point. And so, like for Kiwoom, it's going to be all about being able to put the pitching together for the rest of the way. And I actually think they made a pretty good signing. They grabbed Kenny Rosenberg from the Angels organization, spent most of last year at Salt Lake. I thought that was a decent pickup for them. And then the rest of the roster is mostly young kids. But this team has done the best job of any of the KBO teams in developing talent. So like all these guys that are currently in the MLB right now, Ha-Sung Kim of the Padres, Hye-Seong Kim of the Dodgers, are both came from Kiwoom. And there's another one I'm forgetting, a little bit older of a player that came from Kiwoom as well. Woo Jin An, who's probably going to make his way to MLB at some point, also from Kiwoom. So they've done a really good job at developing young talent. They finished last in the KBO last year. So for the most part, they've been priced as a last place team for the majority of this year. I think the outlook on them was pretty bleak coming into this season because of the pitching. They're 5-7 after yesterday's game. They lost yesterday, but I really think that they're going to probably I think they have a chance to just plug their way to like 500, especially if they hit on some of these prospects. And the kid that they've got pitching today, Hyun Woo Jung, is an 18-year-old. He was their first-round pick from last year. We actually bet him in his debut. We won a game that was a 17-10 final. And he hasn't pitched since. His stat line from that game is incredible. This is his literal KBO debut, 18 years old. They let him throw 122 pitches. He went 5 innings. He only gave up 4 earned runs, 8 hits, 4 strikeouts, 7 walks. Now, you've got to go back and understand that Kiwoom had a lead for most of that game, so he had probably a longer leash than he would have. But, man, they let a kid, 18 years old, throw 122 pitches in his KBO debut. He has not pitched since, so they gave him some extra rest after that start. This will only be his second start. I saw enough, there was enough promise there to make me think that he could potentially be pretty good again today. They're home. They're up against NC. Min-Hyuk Shin is going to pitch for NC. He's super consistent, but his stuff is not overpowering. He doesn't have a very high strikeout to walk ratio. He's someone that I think Kiwoom could absolutely generate some offense from. It'll be interesting to see how this game gets priced. I think if you get a decent +1.5, I think you could bet Kiwoom here. So I went way over on time for this. Got to get back in the groove. Got to get back in the groove, sticking to the clock. We'll get this back down to 11, 12, 13 minutes. But I haven't done one in a while, so went a little long there. Those are some opinions from Final Four across the league. I hit another 4% top-rated MLB play on Friday with the A's. MLB's off to a great start. I'll definitely have something posted for MLB today over at WagerTalk. Appreciate all of you who watched this, and we'll get back to more regular shows. I don't know if I'll do one tomorrow, but remember, I gave you that Rockies lean for tomorrow. So if I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you on Monday. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy the Final Four. Cash all your tickets. We'll see you guys soon.